world doesn't play fair. You can be honest, hardworking, and loyal, and still, someone will betray you. You can become highly skilled, deeply dedicated, and still, someone less qualified gets the spotlight. That's the reality we live in. But here's the thing. Those who truly see this reality don't crumble under it. They adapt, they endure, they rise. Because survival isn't just about strength, it's about awareness, it's about intelligence, the kind that doesn't always show itself on the surface, the kind that operates quietly in the background, shaping decisions, reading people, and waiting for the right moment to move. This is what I call dark intelligence. Dark intelligence is born when people get betrayed, humiliated, or defeated, and instead of breaking, they evolve. They stop wasting energy trying to change the unfairness of the world and start learning how to move strategically within it. While others argue, they observe. While others react, they calculate. While others drown in emotion, they plan. Most people play checkers. You're about to learn how to play chess. Before we dive in, I want to make something very clear. This knowledge isn't for harm. It's for protection. It's not about becoming manipulative or cruel. It's about defending yourself from the manipulative and cruel. The goal is to understand the game, not to become the villain. Today, we'll uncover the 8 psychological traits that separate survivors from victims, leaders from followers, and winners from everyone else still trying to figure out why life feels unfair. Let's get into it. 1. Calculated opacity. You never reveal everything. You let people see just enough. The most powerful individuals in history understood this. When people know half the story, their imagination fills in the rest, and that imagination can be controlled. Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Think about the most magnetic, intriguing people you've ever met. They don't overshare. They don't explain themselves endlessly. They answer questions with half smiles or counter questions. They leave space for curiosity. This isn't lying. It's strategic communication. Most people feel obligated to explain themselves, their plans, their fears, their motivations. They mistake oversharing for honesty, but what they're really doing is giving away their power. Mystery creates influence. When you hold something back, people start paying attention. Curiosity leads to interest. Interest leads to respect. And respect, that leads to influence. Let's say someone asks, "What are you doing this weekend?" Most people respond with, "Oh, just relaxing, maybe watching a movie." Predictable, forgettable. But if you say, "I've got something important to take care of," and then smoothly change the subject, suddenly you've created a question mark in their mind. You've become interesting. Calculated opacity isn't about being rude or cold. It's about being selective. You share what's necessary, and nothing more. The most successful people reveal just enough to stay engaging, but never enough to lose their advantage. They know their information is currency, and they spend it wisely. When you start speaking less, people listen more. Your words become valuable because they are not constant. You don't waste them. The goal isn't to be mysterious just for attention. The goal is control over your narrative, your relationships, and the energy you give away. 2. Adaptive persona. You are not one fixed version of yourself. You shift, adapt, and evolve depending on who you're dealing with. People like to say, "Just be yourself." But what they don't realize is that you're already many versions of yourself. You talk differently with your grandmother than you do with your friends. You behave differently at a business meeting than you do at a party. That's not being fake. That's being socially intelligent. Machiavelli once advised that a leader should always appear merciful, faithful, upright, humane, and religious, but never necessarily be those things all the time. What he meant was simple. Perception matters as much as reality. An adaptive persona means you read the room and adjust your energy accordingly. You study the person in front of you, how they talk, what they value, how they process information, and then you meet them where they are. Are they logical? Bring data. Are they emotional? Speak with empathy. Are they visionary? Paint the big picture. Are they practical? Show results. That's not manipulation. That's communication intelligence. Think of yourself like water. It takes the shape of any container it's in, but it's still water. Its essence doesn't change. You don't lose yourself by adapting. You expand yourself. The mistake most people make is assuming authenticity means acting the same with everyone. But real authenticity means staying true to your core, while expressing that truth in ways that connect with different kinds of people. When you master the adaptive persona, you become someone who can connect with anyone. People feel comfortable around you because you understand them, often better than they understand themselves. But here's the warning. Adapt your expression, never your integrity. Your values are the diamond at the core. They don't bend. But a diamond has many facets, and each catches light differently. That's what makes it powerful and beautiful. 3. The principle of detachment. Here's one of the most liberating truths you'll ever learn. What you're not afraid to lose can't control you. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop being owned by what you care about. Most people are enslaved by their attachments. They stay silent at toxic jobs because they fear losing security. They cling to relationships that drain them because they fear being alone. They chase approval because they fear rejection. That fear makes them predictable and manipulatable. Detachment frees you from all that. Machiavelli once wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if one must choose between them, it is safer to be feared than loved." Now, I'm not saying you should be cold or emotionless. I'm saying you should be free. Imagine two people negotiating a deal. Person A needs it to work out. They've already built their future around it. Person B wants it to work out, but they're fine if it doesn't. Who has the real power? Person B, because they're willing to walk away. Detachment gives you clarity. When you're not desperate, you make better decisions. When you're not afraid to be alone, you attract better relationships. When you're not obsessed with being right, you start learning faster. Here's the paradox. The less you need something, the more likely you are to get it. People respect those who aren't easily shaken. They sense your independence, and that commands attention. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care wisely, without letting your emotions make your choices for you. Start small. Don't rush to win every argument. Don't try to be liked by everyone. Don't panic when plans change. Practice being okay with uncertainty. Because the most powerful person in the room isn't the loudest one. It's the one who could walk away at any time and still be at peace. 4. Silent leverage. True power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. Most people think power is loud, about raising your voice, asserting dominance, demanding attention. But real power? It moves quietly. It shapes outcomes without being noticed. That's silent leverage, the ability to influence without force, to create pressure without saying a word. Machiavelli wrote, "Never was anything great achieved without danger." The danger he spoke of wasn't always physical. It was the quiet risk of playing a long game. Silent leverage is that long game. It's the art of positioning yourself so strategically that your very presence shifts the atmosphere of a room. Here's how it works. Instead of demanding loyalty, you earn it through consistency. Instead of asking for respect, you command it through results. Instead of forcing people to comply, you make them want to cooperate. You don't shout, you don't argue. You wait, because patience itself is a weapon. Let's make this practical. In a conversation, silence is your ally. Most people are terrified of it. They rush to fill every pause, revealing things they never intended to say. When you get comfortable with silence, you shift control of the rhythm. Next time someone asks you a tough question, pause, think. Let the silence stretch a little. You'll notice how the weight of your next words increases tenfold. In business, silent leverage means having options. You don't threaten to walk away from a deal, you simply can. And that knowledge, unspoken, gives you power. In relationships, silent leverage means being valuable without needing constant recognition. You add stability, wisdom, and calm, quietly. People start realizing how much they rely on you, even if you never remind them. In leadership, silent leverage means solving problems so effectively that people begin to depend on your judgment. They seek your opinion before making moves. You don't demand authority, they hand it to you. But the key to all this is patience. You're not after immediate results. You're planting seeds, influence that grows over time. Every small, consistent action builds silent leverage, and one day, when it matters, that leverage speaks for you. However, there's an ethical side to this. Silent leverage should never be used to trap or manipulate. The highest form of power is influence that benefits everyone involved. The goal isn't to control people, it's to guide them toward outcomes that serve their best interests too. Remember, loud power dominates the moment. Silent power shapes the future. 5. Psychological echo. Every person you meet is asking 3 silent questions. Do you see me? Do you understand me? Do you value me? If you can make someone feel yes to all 3, they'll remember you forever. That's the essence of psychological echo, the ability to reflect people's inner world back to them so they feel seen, understood, and connected. Machiavelli once said, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand." For everyone can see and few can feel. What he meant was simple. People rarely perceive truth. They perceive reflections, mirrors that show them something about themselves. Psychological echo is about becoming that mirror. Most people listen to respond. You're going to learn to listen to reveal. Here's how it works. When someone speaks, don't just hear their words. Listen for the emotion underneath, the fear beneath the anger, the longing beneath the complaint, the insecurity behind the brag. If someone says, "I'm so sick of my job," you could respond with, "You should quit." But a person with dark intelligence hears the subtext, "I feel unappreciated," or "I'm scared I've plateaued." A psychological echo response might sound like, "It sounds like you feel stuck, like your potential isn't being seen." Suddenly, the person feels deeply understood, often more than they understand themselves. And that moment of resonance builds powerful trust. When people feel seen, they lower their guard. They open up. And when they open up, you gain insight, not for manipulation, but for clarity. Because once you understand someone's emotional wiring, you can communicate in their language. If they crave stability, frame ideas around safety. If they crave recognition, speak in terms of success and validation. If they crave freedom, emphasize independence and choice. You're not changing your truth, you're translating it into a dialect their mind understands. This is what great leaders, negotiators, and influencers do naturally. They don't overpower, they resonate. Here's an exercise. Next time you talk to someone, instead of giving advice, try reflecting what they feel. Don't solve, don't fix, just echo. You'll see their body relax, you'll see trust form. Psychological echo isn't deception, it's empathy with precision. It's understanding that the fastest way to influence anyone is to make them feel understood. And ethically, it's one of the most beautiful uses of dark intelligence because it connects, heals, and strengthens relationships while increasing your own insight into human nature. 6. Ambiguous morality. This is the one that makes people uncomfortable, and that's exactly why it matters. Ambiguous morality means you live in the gray. You understand that life isn't black and white, and sometimes doing what's right doesn't look good to everyone. Machiavelli wrote, "Since it is difficult to join them together, it is safer to be feared than to be loved when one of the two must be lacking." That line wasn't about cruelty, it was about pragmatism. Because real power operates in reality, not in ideals. Let's be clear. Ambiguous morality doesn't mean you abandon ethics. It doesn't mean you manipulate or harm others. It means you accept that moral perfection is impossible in a complex world. Sometimes protecting the innocent requires confronting the guilty. Sometimes being kind means telling the hard truth. Sometimes mercy toward one person creates injustice for many others. That's the reality of power. Every decision has a cost. Imagine you lead a team and one member is consistently dishonest, creating chaos behind the scenes. The nice thing might be to give them another chance, but the right thing, for the good of the team, might be to let them go. Or picture a friend in a toxic relationship asking for advice. You could play it safe and say, "Follow your heart." Or you could risk the friendship and say, "You deserve better." One looks kind, the other is kind, in the long term. Ambiguous morality asks a deeper question. What outcome serves the greater good, even if it doesn't make me look good right now? It's not about image, it's about results that protect, heal, or strengthen in the long run. This kind of intelligence requires courage, the courage to take responsibility for imperfect decisions, to live with complexity, and to act in truth even when it's inconvenient. But beware, this principle can be twisted. People often use ends justify the means, thinking to excuse selfishness. That's not what we're talking about. You must have boundaries, lines you will never cross, no matter how strategic the situation. Your values are your compass. Ambiguous morality simply means you allow nuance to guide how you apply those values in messy, real-world situations. Here's a rule to remember. If your decision only serves you, it's manipulation. If your decision serves a greater good, even at a personal cost, it's strategy. The world is not simple. Good people are sometimes forced to make difficult choices, and those who shy away from that complexity often end up powerless, or worse, complicit in harm they could have prevented. So no, you don't have to be purely good or purely bad. You just have to be effective and ethical at the same time. When you accept the gray, you stop hesitating. You start leading. You become someone who doesn't just talk about doing good, you actually make good happen, even when it's hard. 7. Emotional containment. If there's one thing that gives your power away faster than anything else, it's emotional leakage. Every outburst, every visible frustration, every nervous laugh, every overreaction is data, and the wrong people use that data against you. Emotional containment doesn't mean suppressing your emotions, it means mastering them. Because when you can stay calm under pressure, you immediately become an enigma. People don't know how to read you, and that uncertainty gives you control. Machiavelli observed that men are so simple and so much creatures of circumstance that the deceiver will always find someone ready to be deceived. The moment you show your emotional pattern, you become predictable, and predictability is weakness. Let's say someone tries to insult you publicly. The ordinary reaction? Defend yourself. But the strategically intelligent reaction? Silence. Calm eye contact, a slow, slight smile. Because silence communicates something no argument ever can. You don't need approval. Every emotionally contained person radiates quiet strength. You can feel it in the room, the steadiness, the grounded energy. It's not the absence of emotion, it's the channeling of it. You don't waste anger on proving points. You use it to sharpen focus. You don't drown in anxiety. You convert it into preparation. You don't let pride drive decisions. You let discipline do that. This isn't about pretending. It's about transforming raw feeling into precise power. Here's a technique. When you feel triggered, don't react. Observe. Name the emotion silently. Anger, fear, envy, shame. The moment you label it, you step outside of it. You become the observer, not the prisoner. And then, breathe slowly. Keep your movements minimal. People who control their gestures and tone appear more dominant, even if they say nothing. In that stillness, you regain the upper hand. You're no longer in the emotional storm. You're the calm center inside it. The emotionally reactive person becomes a puppet of others. The emotionally contained person becomes the puppeteer of themselves. Remember this, calmness isn't passive, it's active power. The one who can stay calm in chaos doesn't need to win every argument. They win through presence, through restraint, through timing. When people realize they can't shake you, they start respecting you. And when they respect you, you don't have to demand power. It naturally gravitates to you. 8. Controlled ruthlessness. Now we reach the final and most controversial trait of dark intelligence, controlled ruthlessness. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. The willingness to do what must be done, but with control, precision, and purpose. Machiavelli said, "A wise ruler ought not to keep faith when by doing so it would be against his interest." That line is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean betray everyone. It means sometimes, when others have broken faith first, clinging to naive loyalty becomes self-destruction. Controlled ruthlessness is the ability to protect your boundaries, firmly, decisively, and without guilt. Here's the truth. If you're too soft in a hard world, people will use your kindness as leverage. They'll test your patience, drain your time, and cross your limits, not because they're evil, but because boundaries unspoken invite trespass. The antidote isn't aggression, it's firmness. A person with controlled ruthlessness doesn't react impulsively. They don't lash out. They act strategically. They don't seek revenge. They seek resolution. They don't destroy. They decide. They don't explode. They execute. When a toxic person keeps violating your peace, you don't try to fix them. You quietly remove access. When a manipulator spreads rumors, you don't chase to clear your name. You let their words rot in silence while your results speak. Controlled ruthlessness is the art of ending what needs to end, swiftly and cleanly. It's about cutting ties when the connection no longer serves growth, ending arguments that waste energy, walking away from circles that breed stagnation. Most people confuse ruthlessness with lack of empathy. But the truth is, ruthless clarity often comes from deep empathy for yourself, your mission, and your limited time on this earth. Because if you care too much about being liked, you'll end up living someone else's script. There's a line I want you to remember. The cost of being misunderstood is far less than the cost of being manipulated. Let them misunderstand you. Let them call you cold, detached, or arrogant. They don't understand what it takes to remain peaceful in a world that feeds on reaction. Controlled ruthlessness is peace with teeth, calmness that protects itself, compassion with boundaries. When you integrate this trait not from hate but from strength, you stop being reactive. You start being selective. The integration, becoming strategically human. Now you know the 8 psychological traits of dark intelligence: calculated opacity, revealing little, saying less, implying much; adaptive persona, adjusting form without losing essence; the principle of detachment, mastering non-attachment to stay free; silent leverage, letting patience and position do the heavy lifting; psychological echo, reflecting others so they feel deeply understood; ambiguous morality, acting with nuance, not rigidity; emotional containment, channeling emotion instead of leaking it; controlled ruthlessness, acting with decisive compassion. Together, these form a new kind of strength, a quiet, unshakable intelligence. This is not about becoming manipulative or heartless. It's about reclaiming the energy that chaos and fear once stole from you. It's about walking through life aware of the games people play and choosing to play consciously, ethically, strategically. Machiavelli's wisdom wasn't meant to turn people into villains. It was meant to show that power, when paired with self-awareness, can create stability. The danger lies not in power itself, but in ignorance of it. When you ignore the darker side of human nature, you become its victim. When you understand it, you become its master. So what does it mean to live with dark intelligence? It means you move through the world with calm precision. You don't explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You don't chase validation. You generate value. You don't fight every battle. You choose the ones that shape your destiny. People may never fully understand your calm. They'll call it distance. They'll call it coldness. But what they're really sensing is your freedom, your refusal to be emotionally enslaved by noise. And over time, they'll realize something. The quiet ones aren't weak, they're focused. The detached ones aren't indifferent, they're self-possessed. The ruthless ones aren't cruel, they're clear. That's what it means to walk with dark intelligence, to operate in light, but never blind yourself to the shadow, to stay kind, but not naive, to be peaceful, but not passive, to love, but never lose yourself in it, because the world doesn't reward purity. It rewards awareness, and awareness, when refined, becomes power, a calm, steady flame that can't be extinguished by chaos. So ask yourself this: will you keep playing the game emotionally blind? Or will you learn to see the board clearly and move like someone who understands both the light and the dark? Because once you do, no betrayal can break you, no manipulation can trap you, no chaos can consume you. You'll stand still while others panic. You'll smile while others react. You'll know, like quietly, that you've already won.